Hello and welcome to another episode here on Captain's Dry Dock. And in the Dry Dock today, I'm unboxing and reviewing the eagerly anticipated 1/6 scale hyper-realistic figure of the Star Trek The Next Generation series, Captain Picard, made by EXO-6.
I think the resemblance is rather striking. Wouldn't you agree, number one?
No, Riker. This resemblance is way more accurate than yours. Let's make it real. Now, my channel is all about making cool, collectible, geeky stuff from Star Trek, Star Wars, computer games, and so on. So you'll be surprised to hear I don't actually consider myself a collector, other than years and wrinkles.
Hey everybody, an old man's talking.
However, I do appreciate companies that are passionate where it shows in the quality of their collectibles, such as Factory Entertainment, Paragon FX Group, and of course EXO-6, who are at the time of filming the only company licensed to produce 1/6 scale hyper-realistic figures from the Star Trek universe. Which the latter, I had the pleasure of interviewing the founder, NANJIN a few years ago now. Click in the link below to see that interview. And if you don't know, EXO-6 is one man's mission to have the entire Star Trek universe made available to own at 1/6 scale. This is during a time where other hyper-realistic figure manufacturers, such as Hot Toys, don't show any love to the Star Trek universe. And of course, being a TNG fan, I waited patiently, like a Falcon monk in meditation, for the TNG Picard to be developed, prototyped, and released, all the while watching NANJIN tease us Facebook followers with behind-the-scene updates. So finally, after receiving a pre-order invite by email, I immediately paid the £20 deposit for the pre-order. That £20 deposit no doubt funded NANJIN's Starbucks coffee habit for the day. And I have to admit, I was sad enough to not open it. Instead, I wrapped it up and waited until Christmas morning to open the entire thing, making sure I didn't look more excited when I opened gifts for my actual family. So, starting with the packaging, I will overlook the use of the original series font, seeing that it's a next generation figure. But first impressions, the packaging is premium. Spot varnish, foil accents, graphics, and just like Apple products with their packaging, this is something you wouldn't want to throw away. The dark, sexy, brooding color palette echoes the very successful Warhammer 40k and Star Wars model kit box designs, making it clear that this is going to be taken seriously and something you desire.
Shut up and take my money!
The box already sets the bar high and promises a lot by having this well-used publicity image of Picard next to a really close-up large photo of the actual figure. And the likeness is incredible, which only makes you pray that it does exactly what it says on the tin. One thing I did notice when I was looking inside the box once you slide out the tray is that it has a window, the kind that allows you to see the contents when it's on display on a shop shelf. But there's no flap and the front doesn't open. It took some time fiddling about with this box as I didn't want to damage it, but it turns out is what we see is the outer sleeve to the actual container. It's just that it's a very tight fit, and I wonder if anyone else overlooked this, as I only just discovered it a week later.
What an idiot!
On the back, it's great to see the names of the artists that made this figure, as many collectible companies don't bother acknowledging the individuals, so big thumbs up to EXO-6 for giving them a shout out. Okay, just as expected, this is very well protected. A vac form cover that stops the figure from rattling around during its 5,000-mile journey from China and potentially being kicked around by some disgruntled postal worker that's jealous that they're not getting one. The figure and the additional parts are very well set out, although the mini plastic bags covering the hands and head look like something from a murder scene. Once freed from his plastic tomb, the feeling of weight is immediate, and I don't know if this was intentional, as there's a slight realistic detail of padding when you press down on chest that simulates the feeling of skin and muscle before it stops at bone. The articulation is just like the drawing mannequins I have and can be posed in pretty much any position with complete control, and importantly, the joints are stiff enough so to hold the exact adjustment you specifically posed it in. The uniform is spot on, and as an avid cosplayer, that owns two TNG uniforms, one made by Anavos that were renowned for accurate uniforms, and a custom-made one I heavily researched using actual samples from the production. In comparison, the cuts and most importantly the color are perfect. Now, EXO-6 did experiment producing these in the color scene on screen, as the bright studio lighting and post-production tweaks made the colors much brighter and vibrant, but I'm so happy they didn't go down that road for the production and instead went with the actual costume color. Although the TNG Starfleet uniform design is basic, there's details that have been captured that could have been ignored, as not many people would have noticed, except for us basement cave dwellers, such as the elastic band under the boots connected to the trousers that pulls them straight, as this was actually done for the studio costumes, so to keep to Gene Roddenberry's brief of avoiding creases, seeing in the future there was no need for irons. Also, the tunic's fastenings with a zip on the back and a tab at the waist are just like the costumes. Comparing the images to the actual costume, even the boots have been given the same level of attention to detail as the rest of the figure. Now, in my opinion, if this uniform was 1:1 scale, it would be a near perfect replica other than the material, which was originally made from expensive suit-grade garbine wool. The seams are in the exact right locations as compared to my tunics, and the fit is perfect. So it comes as no surprise that EXO-6 are now developing real 1:1 cosplay uniforms to sell from the Star Trek universe. So keep an eye out. The only teeny tiny point I would make is that the gold on the com badge and the rank pips is a little bit too shiny for my liking, as the studio regalia gold was dull and a bit more brownish. I assume by design so not to reflect so harshly with the studio lighting, but other than that, the scale and design is correct. Now, the make or break of any hyper-realistic figure, the head sculpt. I'm going to use a cliche and say that for this price range of $200 US, photos and videos don't do this figure justice. I think mainly due to the lighting or the way people take pictures too close that distort its proportions. Zooming in, you can even see the skin texture, subtle changes as color and tones of the skin. Although the hair on this particular figure is molded, not that it was an issue for a bald character, it's been done faithfully and doesn't distract from the realistic look. As I know that having fibers to make realistic looking hair would have bumped up the production cost considerably, and frankly you don't need it for this particular figure. Looking closely, the eyes look like they got life to them, and remembering this is a mass-produced item that is hand painted, it's outstanding. I love that they included the trick of making them look moist with a little bit of a gloss finish. Now, in my opinion, the lightness is the best variation of Picard's EXO-6 produces. As in my interview with NANJIN, he wanted to show all the chapters of Picard's life.
When Star Trek Picard came out, I look at it. Oh, I can make a story with my figure. On Star Trek Picard, and I think, oh, now there's more interesting. I have a young Picard, and then I have a Locutus. I can do, and then I can do a first kind of Picard, and then now we have a redemption Picard. Perfect. Okay, it's a life story, and he died, right?
As I've had this on my desk for about a week now, every angle just looks right, and for such an iconic character whose head features are so well recognized, it just had to be. The hands also carry on with this level of detail and accuracy. You can see the muscle and tendons, and what's really fascinating is the way that they're posed. See, on set, the cast had issues with not knowing what to do with their hands, as the costumes didn't have pockets, but as Patrick Stewart was a trained Shakespearean actor, he had many years of experience in Tudor costumes that were without pockets. And Patrick Stewart's simple piece of advice to the rest of the cast was just let your hands hang down by your side.
Simples.
As there's a particular relaxed state Patrick's hands form, which you can see in this sculpt. I know it's a small detail, but contributes immensely to the overall believability and character of the figure. Now there's two versions of this TNG series figure, Essential and Standard Edition. This being a latter, where you get 3 sets of hands in different poses, a phaser, and a tricorder with holsters. These hands can be easily swapped out with your optional poses. This is if you want him to hold something or enact a specific action. The details of the phaser and tricorder had the same amount of attention. There was no slacking when it came to every part of this product. Although there's one aspect I can see that practicality superseded accuracy, as the studio costumes attached the holsters to the trousers via loops. But on this figure, they used magnets. But to be fair, it's less fiddly and a great solution. Now, it's just an opinion, but I think it may be because the loops would have stood out on the figure if you decided not to attach the holsters. But that's just a theory. Lastly, the figure comes with a display stand that's based on the transporter pad design. This is standard across all of EXO-6 Star Trek figures, but frankly, the figure does such a good job standing on its own that I'm not even going to use it, as I find it detracts from the realism of the piece and I'd rather have him sitting on his Enterprise D command chair. I think by now you know my conclusion. This for me is a work of art where you just want to look at it and appreciate the craftsmanship and details, as the sheer will and effort to bring this to market is just incredible. But unlike most artwork, you can alter it within the confines of its design to give it a fresh new display and enjoy it for many years. $200 is a very low price for a hyper-realistic 1/6 scale collectible. And I know NANJIN did that on purpose, so the dream of owning a piece of Star Trek history is accessible for all. Even if it meant cutting down on high street coffee or a pint for a few months, or have a partner that will raise our eyebrows at the purchase. This is an official warning. Yes, as they say in the Warhammer community, this is plastic crack, and I can see how anyone would start collecting these after you buy one. And although I've resisted temptation, I did pre-order the captain's chair. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this review and hope it helps you with your decision if you are on the fence about buying this or any of the other figures. In the meantime, my name's Captain Picard, this is John Child, and I'll see you again on the next episode here on Captain's Dry Dock. You take care.
Make it so.